Hi, so I'm Yaakov Stern. I'm a neuropsychologist. I've been at Columbia University at the medical school my whole career. My research is focused on cognitive aging, dementia. I've been interested in the heterogeneity of Alzheimer's disease. And then the theme of this meeting, why some people can cope better with aging and remain intact. Okay, let's see. I need these. So what I thought I'd do today, I'm going to talk about this concept of cognitive reserve. I'll speak again tomorrow about it, but I thought I would just show you how we are using an operational definition for it and incorporating it into our research. I'm not going to show you a lot about ethnicity or a lot of the other questions we've been discussing, but I'll show you a framework within which those questions can be embedded. So I'll talk about it tomorrow with a very large work group. We came up with these operational definitions for this concept of cognitive reserve. So what we need to do is really look at life course changes in brain, right? Their implication for cognitive changes, and then what are the moderators of that? It sounds very simple, but it took 3 years and 3 conferences to to get to consensus on that idea. So I'm going to show you some examples of this in reference to this study that I have, the referenceability study, where we're following people 20 through 80 over time. We have 5-year follow-up, 10-year follow-up, about a little over 400 people. Just to give you an idea, the way that we try to make this fair is we use junk mail to send invitations to people within a 20-mile radius of our hospital, which is really quite a diverse group. And I'm not going to show you information about ethnicity, but it is ethnically diverse, but I'm not going to get into that in today's talk. And you can see just 5-year changes in 4 abilities: reasoning, speed, and memory, which decline over time. And you can see even in younger people. Let me see if I can get the... How did you guys get the... Thank you. Oh, beautiful.
And if you point on here.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Okay. So yeah, so you can see that this is 5-year change in people who are initially 20. And you can see that, as I think most of you are aware, that this cognitive change is something that doesn't just start in aging. It starts even from 20 to 25 or 25 to 30. And you can see here is an example of an ability that actually gets better over time, vocabulary. So there is hope for certain abilities. Wisdom is the key one, I feel. And then what we've done is taken advantage of this change over time in this population to look at variables that might moderate this change. So look at individual differences. So here's a paper, an earlier paper. So first we look at this concept of who did not show as much brain change as others. That's the concept of brain maintenance. And then we looked at variables that were associated with less brain change. And so higher IQ was associated with smaller declines in reasoning and memory, and higher education was associated with smaller declines in speed. This is after accounting for the age-related brain changes that we were measuring. Here's another example, again, accounting for age-related brain changes over 5 years, people with engaging in greater leisure activity showed less change. And again, this was not just in elderly people, but across the entire age range. You see this, what I'm showing you here are changes, and you can see that the people who engaged in more leisure activity showed less change over time. So that's something that I've been involved with for a long time, looking at all of these different exposures, IQ, education, exercise. I'll show you a list of them that seem to moderate the impact of brain changes on cognitive change. So at some point, a long time ago, I was seduced by the beginnings of fMRI and that to say, okay, how is cognitive reserve implemented in the brain? So just, so we have aging leads to changes in brain structure or to Alzheimer's pathology, leads to cognitive decline. People who can maintain their brains better, I call it brain maintenance. Some people might call that resistance, can do that. And then some people with greater cognitive reserve can moderate the impacts of brain change on cognition. And then really, how is this reserve implemented? What's going on inside the brain that allows people to do that? And so we've used fMRI, either activation or resting bold, to look at that question. And I'll just give you one or two recent examples. So here we're giving people a test of it's an executive task where either people are just identifying the color of an object, let me say it better, based on the color of the thing that the people are making either an upper or lowercase decision about a letter or a different decision. And then we have blocks where people have to switch between those two. I think most of you are familiar with that. And you get this thing called a switch cost. When people have to make two separate decisions within the same block, they're slower at it, they're less accurate than when they just have to make a single decision. And we have a cognitive pattern, a pattern of activation that seems to increase from non-switch to switch blocks. But the difference in the degree to which that switches varies across people. And we can show that that difference in activation moderates the impact of age and of age-related brain changes on cognition. So let me walk you through it. It's hard for me to see it over here, so let's just look over here. So our dependent variable is change in switch cost. We have structural brain changes over the 5 years that are impacting switch cost. Our candidate for reserve here is this degree of activation, and we can show that this degree of activation moderates the impact of brain change on the cognitive change. Now, that's pretty, so I think the thing that's exciting for me about that is we're moving from an exposure like, do people exercise, to a brain measure of cognitive reserve, because cognitive reserve has to be in the brain. It has to be implemented in the brain in some way. What I think that I can offer for this meeting is that once you have that kind of a framework set up, then you can incorporate all of the things that we've been talking about this morning. What are the racial differences in brain change, et cetera, et cetera. So all of these things can be embedded in a sort of a rational framework. I'll give you another example. So that was an example of people taking a specific task. We have this other variable we call a task invariant network. So basically, it's a network that we've discovered that seems to be up and running during multiple types of cognitive processes. And the people who can ramp up this network more, again, show less impact of brain change on cognitive change. And that's what we're really showing here again. So we have, again, we have structural brain change. We have our candidate, the task invariant network, and we're showing moderation. What I should say that, so like here, you don't see an effect of structural brain change. That's because it's in the context of this larger analysis, but the structural brain change is driving the cognitive change. Here we're just using our outcome is total cognition. I'm not going to show you this one because it's too wonky. But I'm glad to discuss it with you because I think it's very cool. Okay. The other thing, back to these various lifespan exposures that are associated with doing better in aging. I like to go back. Here's the earliest paper I could find. Marcus Richards, who was my postdoc and then is in the British birth cohort. He looked at, he knows everything about these people from the time they were born. I don't know if you are familiar with the British birth cohort. It was established right after World War II. They were worried about fertility. So they got the mothers of pregnant mothers and followed them and their children over time. So he has the best information I know. I'm very jealous. So he knows father's occupation. He knows cognition at age 8. He has education at 26 years, occupation. And then this was a while ago. They know everything about these people. And now these people are at the point where they're can't show age-related cognitive decline and dementia. And the main point that of this paper was that each of these measures that he had independent contributions to age-related cognitive decline. So it's not just that you, let's say, you're born into a better family, so you get a better, you have more stimulation, you have better education, and it's all just that original where you were born. Each thing contributes separately to people's resilience over time. And so I think it's important when thinking about that. Here I even have a bigger list. These are a lot of variables that we collect in our studies. Data people things is there are people's occupation, education, social network size, community standing, cognitive leisure, exercise, METs, physical leisure. We have numerous measures. But I think the interesting point is that each one of these things contributes separately. And what people very often try to do is create some kind of a summary score of those. And that summary score is probably not correct. Let's say you do a factor analysis and get a factor. What that factor score is giving you is what's common to all of those things. And really what we need to understand is the unique contribution of each of those things. So in a mathematical way, it's called a formative model. So here, I'll give you an example. So here you have data people things. You can get a factor score and bring them down to this concept of occupation. But what we're doing here is different. So here we've summarized these 4 things. Here what we're doing is you see the arrows are different. So here this occupation summarizes something that's common to these 4 things. Here what we're saying is that this cognitive reserve variable is formative in that each of these things are contributing in their own way. Mathematically, this is very hard to do, but here's an example of how you can do it. Okay, so my takeaway message for today that this framework that I'm talking about is a way that we can build on the kinds of observations I'm discussing and bring in the sex, gender, diversity-related factors, social determinants of health. We have those variables. There's things that we're looking at as well. But I just wanted to sort of suggest that this is an approach that might be useful for those of you who are following people and working with brain measures, et cetera. I'll stop there. Thanks a lot.